Hi, my name is Gary Bradshaw. I'm 52 years old, and this is actually my first video. Why am I doing it? Well, I'm actually having a hip replacement in a couple of days, and for many people, there's lots of unknowns around procedures such as that. Some people actually frown on using the internet for medical advice, and I've been one of those people in the past, but I've actually found it very useful in this case for information on YouTube around the hip replacement itself, the surgery, and the recovery as well. So I've actually found it a very, very great help. So I've decided to do my own video. It might be of help for people, it might not. But I'm hoping to do more videos as we go on through the process, and also while in hospital, pain permitting, and also when back at home again, doing the rehab after a few days. So a bit of background. I've ran for over 32 years. I've ran marathons, I've played football. I've actually broke my right leg twice playing football. But I've always been very sporty and very active. This actually started over 10 years ago. I noticed when actually trying my boots when I was playing football, on certainly my right leg, my hands actually, I had to go on the inside of my leg to tie the laces, rather than putting your hands either side and then tying them that way. So it seemed a little bit strange. But eventually I went to the doctors, had an x-ray, but I found actually I had chronic arthritis in my right hip. Never had any issues really. I even ran my fastest marathon in under 4 hours back in about 2008. But around about end of 2015, start of 2016, I found that I was getting little niggles when I was doing running in my ankles, etc, etc. So what I decided to do is take the training really back down to basics and build everything up and strengthen up from scratch. But at that point, sort of early 2016, the hip started to be a little bit restrictive, and certainly into a couple of months into 2016, it's certainly not improving. Initially I thought it was muscular, but never had any issues at all with exercising with my hip. I even paid for several sessions with physios, but still no improvement. But in my head, it was still muscular. So after quite a few physio sessions, I did manage to get some sort of exercise done, but still the restrictiveness and the pain would never really go away. I actually did manage to do a Total Warrior assault course in about August time for my son's stag party, which was no mean feat. And at the end of that, I was in sort of quite a lot of pain, but it was a 10k. I managed to get through that. But basically, I think my body has said enough's enough. So now it was about time I had to do something about with my hip, because instead of doing an exercise, which I really like doing, it was more about quality of life and being able to get around at work in general life without pain. So that was the thing. So this is where it starts to get interesting, because earlier in the year, purely by chance, a friend of my wife gave her an article from one of the national newspapers, the Daily Mail, about a new type of hip replacement method that was available. So I actually kept that for reference, but not actually knowing I'll actually need to look at it so soon. And I'll try and put a link on the video regarding that article as well. Basically, the method involved is actually called Superpath, and the consultant who actually performs this main one in the UK is a guy called Michael Cronin, who is based down at Warwick Hospital. And this article was all around this particular method, about being able to get up and running quite quickly after, less trauma on the muscles, less invasive on the body, etc, etc. So I actually visited every 12 months my consultant for my hip replacement, based in my local town, for checkups and x-rays. And this is the most recent one. I actually took the articles with me and actually asked him, so how can I get this particular method done? The response I got was a little bit surprising. So rather than being rather helpful, the consultant was a little bit off in effect with me. and basically said I needed to go back to my GP, which is not really what I expected. I thought they would actually be more helpful, investigate the process. He didn't actually seem like he'd actually heard of the process. And I even thought they might arrange an appointment so I could actually look to get this procedure looked at. So the end result was I had to go back to my GP with the information that I'd got, so I could then explore that as a possibility. So in the meantime, I actually discovered that the surgeon that did my wife's friend's hip replacement, he actually did a similar method to the superpath, which again was less invasive than the normal method that had been used historically. So it was getting quite interesting now because as far as I was concerned, you only had a hip replacement, and I wasn't aware there was different techniques and methods to actually do the surgery. So I was actually quite wrong, as you know, knowledge is a great thing. So on with this information, the newspaper articles and the name of the surgeon that had performed the operation on my wife's friend. I went back to my GP and passed on that information. They were actually quite surprised that I'd done so much research. This is actually one of the great things we have now with the NHS, which is patient's choice. And as far as I understand it, basically you can pick your surgeon and have your operation done where that surgeon operates. So basically you have control. I did actually think about using Michael Cronin down at Warwick, but logistically for travel and family etc. that would have been an absolute nightmare. So I decided to go with the one who'd had good reports, who did my wife's friend. So my GP actually sent a referral letter to that surgeon requesting they actually do the operation. And then once that was sent, basically, it was time to wait and see what came back. The letter actually came back quite quickly from the consultant, saying they would in effect accept the case. So I was given an appointment on the 12th of January 2017. So I actually attended the consultation with the surgeon. He did another X-ray, and even though I'd had one done a couple of months early with my local consultant, but he did actually say that it was time to do the operation because my hip joint was basically bone on bone and there was no cartilage left in the joint whatsoever. So now the second thing that's great about the NHS is not only do you have your choice of who you want to do your operation, but they do have deadlines to work to. So it's great for us as patients and people waiting for operations, but probably not so good for them as they have to meet the deadlines. So after seeing the consultant, and he agreed to do the replacement, in effect the clock starts ticking and they have to deliver. So as it stands, certainly for me, the replacement has to be done from 12 to 18 weeks after the consultation. And that's great for me as I do actually project management as part of my job. So that's what I've treated this as. It's a project, in effect, to get my hip replaced with milestones I can chase. So my advice in this case is manage it like a project. Ask the staff, what's the next step? When do you have to do that by? Get the deadlines from them, the dates, so that you can check the status. And that's what I've done. One thing was very, very apparent, as I mentioned earlier on, I didn't really realise there was different methods to do hip operations. I've already said the superpath one, which is the one that I think in effect seems to be the Rolls Royce of hip replacements. It's minimally invasive, but there's a limited number of consultants who actually can do that. It's done very similar to the second one, which I'm hoping to have done, which is the anterior approach, which is done in effect the front side of the hip. Again, minimally invasive through sort of a small scar, typically this sort of size, they operate through. But that is, according to my surgeon, dependent on how easily he can move my leg when I'm under anaesthetic. The other approach is the posterior approach, which is typically done through the back of the glute muscles. But what they actually do is they actually cut down the the length of the muscle rather than across, so there's a lot less damage through that muscle. And again, the recovery times with all these now compared to what I believe 3 years ago is a lot better. There's even probably more methods that I'm not aware of, but certainly this is good information when you're looking for a hip replacement. So being armed with this information, my surgeon has agreed to do the anterior approach, and again, like I said, providing my leg moves enough for him when I'm under anaesthetic, so it should allow me to recover quicker. And he's also said, thankfully for me, after having this done and rehab and following the steps, he's not going to put any restrictions on me whatsoever in terms of sport. So for me, absolutely fantastic news. So what's next? Well, since the appointment with the consultant, it's a waiting game. I did actually have every intention of doing some muscle strengthening work, and I have tried to do a little bit around my hip to strengthen it up for after the operation. However, it is really like my body said, no, you're not doing any more of this now, you can forget it. And I think whether it's subconscious or physically, the hip does actually feel like it's got steadily worse. Walking has got more painful, and actually, in effect, I do actually dread having to walk anywhere. Before your operation, you do have a pre-operation assessment, and that's obviously arranged before your surgery. What I did, again, managing it as a project, trying to always bring in deadlines if you can, is rather than wait for the 12 weeks to elapse, I rang after about week 5 or 6 to ask what date my pre-op was likely to be. So really, to my surprise, they actually said that they could actually do the operation early in March. So in effect, I'm having my operation on week 9, which is about 3 weeks earlier than what they really have to do. So again, it's a thing I can recommend doing. Call and see if the appointment can be brought in. In effect, I believe I've had a slot that somebody's had an operation they've actually cancelled. So again, I believe I'm lucky, but it's always worth doing. I've had the pre-op done, which is all about giving bloods, checking you well enough to have the surgery, blood pressure, etc. And now we're at the big day. So I know I'm going to be a little bit nervous, but I really can't wait. I'll be in pain, I know I will. However, the pain will be good pain, but it's going to be improving pain. So hopefully, the next video I'll do will probably be a video from the hospital after the operation. Hope you like the video. If you do,